love Caitlin Clark. Love her. I got the WNBA League Pass 2 years in a row. I watched the WNBA. I don't know if I've missed a Caitlin Clark basketball game in 2 years. But I'm going to talk honestly. And so, at the risk of offending some of you all that have made her an idol, and this show, we don't like idolatry. There are no idols. I criticize myself constantly. Criticize everybody because I'm not an idol. You're not an idol. Caitlin Clark's not an idol. We have one idol. Name's Jesus Christ. So there's been a brawl or a backlash to the Barbie brawl. And if you follow over social media, some Minnesota Lynx players posted a video criticizing the Indiana Fever for their reaction in not really defending Caitlin Clark in that deal with the Connecticut Sun and J.C. Sheldon and Marina Mabrey. And you know, later in the game, Sophie Cunningham did defend Caitlin Clark or took a pot shot at J.C. Sheldon. But these Minnesota Lynx players, you know, had a different take on what should have happened in real time when Marina Mabrey bumped into Caitlin Clark and Caitlin Clark flopped to the ground. I'm sorry for hurting your feelings, but that's what I think happened. But anyway, here's the Minnesota Lynx players talking about what they would have done if their star player had been knocked to the ground.
Look, they showing him. Look at me.
Square, but cooler edge prevailed.
Hey!
He was up 10 at this point.
Hey, we would have been crashing that RT.
Courtney, if somebody ever tackles you like that,
Nobody would ever tackle me like that. They would play with Bridget like that, and then we would have to like take it up there.
okay.
You see what I'm saying?
But I'm just saying.
Nobody would ever play with me like
If
that.
that ever happened, you better crash out behind me, because I'm crashing out behind you.
T,
We can share the same jail cell. Yeah, well,
oh my gosh, bro. Our team would crash, bro, because they would play with somebody that's like not even like it would be like they would do that to like Bridget or like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like, bro, stop fucking playing with Bridget like that before we run down on some shit.
yeah, fags. Walk
For
them
real.
down.
Walk them down.
That is Minnesota Lynx players. Minnesota Lynx, who the Fever will play on July 1st in the Commissioner's Cup Championship. The Minnesota Lynx, who I consider probably the favorite to win the WNBA title this year. That's the team that I'm hoping the Fever face in the WNBA Finals. And they have a completely different tone, roster makeup. I'm just keeping it real about the Minnesota Lynx. And I'm not saying this is preferable, but I'm just saying those two women kind of represent the vibe in Minnesota. It's a lesbian-based team, from their, you know, butch coach to the roster makeup. Now, Nafisa Collier is their star, but it's a tattoo-heavy team. Girls that are a little bit rougher. And this is the WNBA. There are many of you all that only watch Caitlin Clark. That's it. If you watch the entire league, there's more of that, what you just saw for the Minnesota Lynx. And basically, they're calling out Aaliyah Boston, Natasha Howard. Like, they're not saying it by name, but the Indiana Fever have two bigs, Aaliyah Boston and Natasha Howard, and they're basically saying, hey, where are y'all? Your star player just got knocked to the ground and is flopping around like she's been killed, and y'all are basically nowhere to be seen. And they have a point. As it relates to Aaliyah Boston, I'm always going to defend Aaliyah Boston. She's not an enforcer. Period. End of story. She's a hardcore Christian. She's very feminine, one of the most feminine 6'5", 210-pound, 220-pound women I think you'll ever see in your life. It's just not in her makeup. She's a super nice, emotes love type person. It's not in her personality to be an enforcer. Natasha Howard, tatted neck, tats everywhere, got some wife, whatever. She just said she's not on board in a real way. And if you remember, or I don't know if you remember, but I said over social media, I was like, hey man, y'all need to hold on to this Erica Wheeler. She was their backup point guard from a year ago, little girl, tatted up, big Caitlin Clark supporter. She's like those Minnesota Lynx players. And she had Caitlin Clark's back, and I was like, y'all need to hold on to her because some things are gonna pop off and you're gonna need someone like Erica Wheeler to set a tone. Now, they have Sophie Cunningham, the Barbie doll, and she's about that life. She's going to defend Caitlin Clark, but this team, the reaction from her teammates, say something, and even if DeWanna Bonner had been here, she's on leave of absence, but she ain't really about protecting Caitlin Clark. As much as Sophie Cunningham is being celebrated, and I think she should be celebrated for being an enforcer and for having the back of Caitlin Clark and stepping up and being the enforcer on this team. Sophie's got a black belt in Kung Fu since she was like 5 or 6 years old. She's not afraid. But as much as she's getting, this overall team isn't fully on board with Caitlin Clark. I'm talking about Natasha Howard. I'm talking about Nylisa Smith from last year, who should have been an enforcer for Caitlin Clark. There are players, even within the Indiana Fever, maybe some of it out of racial jealousy, but also some of it out of like, hey, Caitlin Clark does too much flopping. She's a bit of a drama queen. She talks a lot of smack. She heightens the intensity of the opponents and likes to pick fights and then run away. And I'm just telling you, these are the facts. I love Caitlin Clark, but these are the facts. She's a hot dog. And some of her teammates aren't fully on board with her. And it showed up last night. Caitlin Clark has a terrible game. I think 0 of 7 from three-point line, ends up only scoring 7 points. But if you watch the game, Caitlin's emotion, energy, all of that just wasn't there. She wasn't her normal self. There's a backlash to the Barbie brawl. That Caitlin Clark found out, like, hey, Sophie Cunningham has my back. Lexi Hall, to the best of her ability, has my back. But the rest of this team, they're a bit indifferent. And I think that has depressed Caitlin Clark, and that's why she was so terrible last night. And they lost to the expansion Golden State Valkyries. 4 of Golden State's players are overseas right now playing in the Eurobasket 2025. 4 Golden State players, I think 1 or 2 of their starters are overseas playing. This is an expansion team. And they beat the Indiana Fever last night with their backups and a shortened roster or a makeshift roster because 4 of their players are overseas playing basketball someplace else and will return after this Eurobasket tournament is over. Kelsey Mitchell, who great scorer, great player, likes Caitlin Clark, but she's not like those Minnesota Lynx players.